bring in Dana Loesch, a nationally syndicated radio host of The Dana Show. Hey, Dana, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you all.
Well, we've got lousy weather here in New York, and there's a storm going on all the television channels right now, and all the newspapers. Everybody's talking about this new book by Michael Wolff that comes out next week, and he quotes, among other people, Steve Bannon, who was always a trusted aide, everybody thought, to President Donald Trump, and now, you know, he's had some very unkind things to say about people in the White House, and a whole bunch of other people have as well. What's your perspective on how people should look at this book?
Well, first off, I'm not surprised at all that this has happened. In fact, I'm actually kind of shocked that it took this long for Steve Bannon to turn on President Trump and the administration, because that's who Steve Bannon is. He's an opportunist. This is an individual who likes to take credit for other people's success. He glommed onto Sarah Palin in the early days of her campaign. He glommed onto Andrew Breitbart. He glommed onto Ted Cruz, and he did the same thing with President Trump. He catches people as they're ascending or after they've already ascended, and then tries to claim credit for all of their accomplishments. So I've known the man for a long time. I have a history there. And so this is something that I, not just myself, but other former colleagues who were also there at the same time, who used to work for him, we've all seen this. But to this point, though, I know a lot of people are talking about whether or not they can trust Michael Wolff, and this guy seems to be untrustworthy and unethical. Steve Bannon trusted him enough to go and blab to him. Steve Bannon trusted him enough to let him in the inner sanctum and encourage other people within the Trump administration to talk to this guy. Steve Bannon claims to be a warrior against the media, but this is a guy who repeatedly has gone to the mainstream media to leak stories and to blab about the administration in an effort to undermine the president's foreign policy decisions. Now think about this. A guy who's supposed to be so strategic and so calculating actually robbed the president here as we go into 2018 of being able to start 2018 by discussing his huge victory with tax reform and how this is going to have to be the message that Republicans need to cling to for victories in the midterm elections coming up just several months, in the future here. And Steve Bannon robbed the president of this talking point by once again making it all about him. He ran to the American Prospect, let's not forget that, another progressive publication wherein he blabbed to a progressive reporter in an effort to undermine the president's foreign policy on North Korea. So I don't think that he can claim to be a warrior against the media when he uses it for his purposes continually to try to undermine the administration. Steve Bannon is all about Steve Bannon and will always only ever be about Steve Bannon.
Well, the only one thing I would not know is that if he does have a part of the base, will he take that with him, since he's now drawn sides between him and the president? And can the president afford to lose a part of that base to Steve Bannon?
I don't think so. The president didn't need Steve Bannon to win, and the president doesn't need Steve Bannon to be successful. Steve Bannon's contribution to this is taking over a website that was created by a better guy and running it into the ground and making it a platform for the alt-right. Some commenters at this website are not going to be enough to bolster Steve Bannon's momentum. President Trump proved that he had a bigger nuclear button against Steve Bannon. You never go to war with a guy who will push back hard on you, and that's what we saw yesterday.
Dana, we were watching the press poll earlier. We've been showing clips of the press poll asking Sarah Huckabee Sanders about, is he cavalier? Is he demented? What's going on with his mental health? You have Joy Behar, who says that he needs to be medicated and hospitalized. Listen to her comments, and we'll get your reaction.
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized at this point, or he is going to just kill all of us. And, you know, my feeling is that probably they're getting closer to him in the Mueller investigation. And that's what this is about, a lot of it.
What's your reaction?
Oh, I think Joy Behar ought to be thanking God as we go into 2018 that Donald Trump is president, because if he wasn't, what on earth would she talk about, and why would people watch her? We only watch her because she says crazy, completely nutty things about the administration and about, I mean, really, she has nothing of substance to offer in terms of criticism about the president. And look at this. I mean, going into 2018, again, I just want to point everyone back to the fact that, you know, it was a very divided primary and it was a bitter general election. But this president has done a lot of things to bring people who were even most hesitant about him and about his abilities to the table and create, I think, one of the biggest tents that has been created in the Republican Party. And Joy Behar is terrified of that. All of them are, which is why they say things like this. So no, I actually enjoy watching her her go off. I think if anyone needs to be medicated, it should be her.
Anthony, top story on every network. Everyone's talking about this book that Michael Wolff wrote and talked about Steve Bannon saying all kinds of salacious bad things about the president's family when he was working at the White House. Is this true?
Listen, I don't know if it's true, but what I would suggest to people, because what goes on in the industry now is people just say whatever they say. Let's go verify it. Okay. At the end of the day, some of it may be true, some of it may not be true. But I have to say this: if he did say it, he should get out there and walk it back. So he's got two choices. I'm not his communications director or his strategist, but if I were, I'd say, walk it back. Donald J. Trump is not treasonous. He's an American patriot. He loves his dad and he loves his country. So walk it back if you did say it. And if you didn't say it, then you got to go out there and denounce that you didn't say it. One or the other.
When he's talking about Donald Trump Jr., basically he said that he is going to crack like an egg, and Mueller is going to focus on money laundering, and predicted that's going to be on national television.
Okay, so again, I don't know if he said that, Brian, or he didn't say it, but let me just say this.
It's been a few hours it's been out, and he hasn't walked it back.
Okay, so he's not going to crack like an egg. He's got nothing to crack about. He's an extremely honest person. I'd put all my money on the table. Okay, you guys remember John Corzine? He was the governor of New Jersey. He had a scandal with MF Global. It wasn't really a scandal. It was just it was a bad trade. No, he was at MF Global, the CEO. Right. Everybody on CNBC all around said he was a criminal. He stole the money. I got out on the air. I said he's not a criminal. He may not like his politics, but he's not a criminal. He didn't steal $1. Sure. Okay. Donald J. Trump Jr. is a very honest person. I have no problem standing up for the guy. I have no problem sticking up for the family. These are very good people that love the country. And so I think Steve's made a very big mistake, if he said it.
Anthony, let's ask you a little bit about this. Apparently, Mr. Wolff had pretty good access to the White House because 95% of his dozen visits there, he was at the guest of Steve Bannon.
Well, in my 11 days, I didn't see him there.
Okay, you didn't see him during your 11 days.
It was also 954,000 seconds if you were counting the seconds, Brian, but go ahead.
But they also apparently, according to Axios, Michael Wolff did some of the sources across the street over at the Hay Adams. Here's a question regarding Steve Bannon, that he would say these things because he represents essentially Donald Trump's core base audience. Why would Steve Bannon take a shot at the president like this?
Well, listen, the president put out a pretty forceful statement yesterday, which I know you guys read. He said
he's crazy.
Steve, and he also said he's about Steve. 6 months ago, I said that. I said he's there building his own brand. He's about Steve. Again, I would say to Steve Bannon, if he's listening to your show, why don't you drop the nonsense, apologize to everybody, and rejoin the team? Okay, I don't know what jersey you're wearing, but you're not wearing our jersey, and you're not wearing Team America's jersey. Okay? Well, at the end of the day, the president's trying to bring the country together. He's got to work with establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats, which he's trying to do. You're distracting from that agenda. Be a team player and knock it off.
He doesn't read a briefing book. He doesn't read a memo. When he talked about the Constitution, wouldn't focus. What's the person that you... Okay, you saw him during the campaign.
Okay, first of all, the guy's a wickedly smart guy. I'll use a neighborhood expression, okay? Number two, you don't become the president of the United States if you're not a wickedly smart person. Bill Clinton said that about George W. Bush. They were picking on George W. Bush and his intelligence and his syntax, and Bill Clinton said, time out a second. You don't become president if you're not a wickedly smart person. You probably didn't say it just like that, but I'm saying it like that.
True or false, he didn't want to become president? They say he did not want to become president. It was to make himself more famous.
Have you had dinner in the residence with me and the president?
Yes.
Did the guy not want to become president?
Absolutely
it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay? I was on the campaign with this guy. Left everything on the field. He emptied the tank on the campaign. Let's go back to 24 hours before the election when he was sitting there in Pennsylvania telling the staff who were thinking they were going back to LaGuardia Airport that we're flying up to Michigan. At 1 o'clock in the morning, unbelievable campaign event in Michigan, okay, bringing the base out, and he won Michigan. How many times did Secretary Clinton go to Michigan?
I don't think ever.
A few. No, she went a few, but Wisconsin, 0. My point is, actually, she went once, right after the president went. She brought President Obama, First Lady Obama, and President Clinton. But my point is, the guy left everything on the field. He wanted to win more than anybody. And let's face it, he's a winner. Okay, he started in June.
Well, I'm just talking about what the insiders are saying.
Well,
nonsense. It's nonsense.
He spent how much of his own money?
Some of it.
to
I think it was
become
probably
president?
55,
You don't-
60 million.
you don't do that
I don't know
unless
the
you wanna
exact number,
become
but
president.
it is
You don't run if you don't
do it for fun.
It is
Right.
total nonsense, okay? Ask Kellyanne Conway that was on the air 6, 7 times a day. This is total
what is
nonsense.
Steve-
So I already know that part of the book is factually inaccurate, just by that.
The New Yorker magazine
This guy
says,
wanted to be the president.
in the excerpts in the New Yorker magazines, when the Mercers came in and said, I want to use Steve Bannon and I want to give $5 million to the campaign, the president's retort was, why? Is that true? When the Mercers came in, the president asked the Mercers why they want to help him?
So again, I believe that it's total nonsense, but I wasn't in the conversation, okay? You guys know the president. He's gregarious. He's sarcastic. You know, he has a tendency to be flamboyant with his rhetorical flourishes, as some of us do. Big deal. But here's what I would say to Steve Bannon again: you're losing your access to the White House because of the way you're running your mouth, and you're losing your access to the Mercers, okay, the way you're running your mouth. So why don't you stop running your mouth and get to a good life coach and knock off the nonsense?
What is Bannon like? What's Bannon like behind the scenes? Why did he get fired specifically? And what's his personality like?
He's a very smart person. He's a very good writer. He does have a pulse on what's going on in some level of the economic discontent and desperation in our society. And that, I think, him and the president had common interests with. But the notion that the president needs him for his base, I soundly reject that. The president has his own base. My prediction is that even Breitbart will break from Bannon if he doesn't drop the nonsense and come back into the fold.
Speaking
Cut
of
it out.
coming back into the fold, I think we all saw your name in the news in the last week. Maybe you're thinking about going back to the White House?
Okay, so I have never said that. I'll say it on the record here. I've never had a conversation with the president about that or his family. I view the president as a friend. We talk. I wish him a Happy New Year on New Year's Eve. He's been a good friend to me. Because I got fired because of what happened with my interview and General Kelly's decision to fire me, I'm not breaking ranks from the president. He's got an unbelievable agenda for the American people. The economy's growing. Wages are up for middle class and lower class families. He's going to tackle these national security issues better than anybody else that we could have put in that job. And so I'm not breaking with the president. And by the way, he's a friend of mine. I'm focused on my house, not the White House.
What are you doing now?
What am I doing? I'm waiting for my deal to close. Unfortunately, my deal needs CFIUS approval. I sold my business to H&A, and it's taking a little while longer, but there's no, in my opinion, there's no national security reason why my deal can't close. And so hopefully we'll hear about that in the first quarter. That deal closing, and then I'll sit on the couch with you guys all day.
Is there something that you did to prevent you from going back to the White House? Because I know you want to serve the country. You looked at two or three different positions. And if you're in regular conversation and he trusts you, why wouldn't you consider going back? Or why wouldn't they consider bringing you back?
I didn't say I wouldn't consider it. I'm an American patriot. I do anything the president would ask me to do. But I'm not a presumptuous guy where I've ever said to anybody, oh, the president wants me back in the White House. It's a bunch of nonsense. You know what happens is you're an effective surrogate for the president. You're an effective advocate. Someone's trying to hit you and trying to create a bridge between you and a divide between you and the president and his family. That's not going to happen with me.
You said you spoke to that reporter off the record. It ended up costing you your job in the White House.
I spoke to the reporter off the record. His family had a 50-year relationship with my family.
Wow.
He can pretend that he didn't, but the Liza family and the Scaramuchis on Long Island go back 50 years, and so he can say whatever he wants. But listen, he lost his job, and so he's not going to be able to do what he did to me to other people, thank God. But I made a mistake, and Ainsley, I own the mistake. I never walked it back.
Steve Bannon feels like it was a mistake to talk to this reporter?
I don't know. I hope he does. I hope he does. And if he does, I hope he'll do the necessary and right thing, is to either offer an apology or issue a retraction, one or the other.
Steve tried to get him on the show.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you.
He didn't want to come on the show?
Yeah, he declined our invitation.
Okay. All right, well,
maybe tomorrow.
Ask him again.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
Good advice. That's very good advice.